You are not going to believe what I have done. I have updated the textures for magic machines. Okay, you might believe it a little bit, but you're not going to believe this next part. You can search for them in the creative inventory now. So how did I do it? How did I create custom blocks that can be searched for in the creative menu? Now some of you might be thinking, oh, you're just overriding stuff like command blocks and infested stone bricks. And let me assure you, that is not the case. As you can see, infested stone are completely untouched, as well as every single spawn egg. So if I'm not replacing anything, then how did I do it? How did I add my own custom blocks to the creative menu? Well, I'll tell you after we do a bit of other stuff first. So welcome to Devil's Food Minecraft. Pardon the very dimly lit room. I promise it'll get nicer as the show goes on. I will essentially be creating a mod pack style experience using only Datapacks, and I will be trying to get as close to the modded experience as possible. Now, if you've seen Chopping Block, Tempest Machines already looks a bit familiar to you. However, let me assure you that this will not be like Chopping Block. For one, this is not going to be a Skyblock Datapack. This is going to be taking place in a traditional Minecraft world. And because of that, some features that I am carrying over from Chopping Block need to be adjusted in order to fit this new context. Of course, blocks like the Growth Enhancer, the Block Breaker, and the Block Deployer all have set uses in a normal survival world. However, other blocks like the Alchemy Reactor, the Ore Infuser, and the Sand Sifter all have pretty much no purpose to exist in a regular survival world, where you can just go mining for any of the things that these blocks provide. So what are we going to do? How are we going to rebalance those machines to work for the normal, everyday context? Well, that's what we're gonna spend some time figuring out. But first, I feel like we should add some new blocks. Oh, you wanted to hear about how I added those custom items to the creative menu? Nah, that can wait a little bit longer. Alright guys, so check out this new block I've added. I plan on redoing the texture at some point. This is just a work in progress. So this block is called Pebbles, and it's just a test block that I created using the mob spawner method. If you're curious how that works, then I will leave a link down in the description to the Simply Sark video that pioneered this technique. And while you can't have a spawner drop an entirely custom item depending on its spawn data, you can do some command magic to get around that. So when I break this block, I get some pebbles. But there is a slight issue with this technique, and I will show it to you right now. So these custom blocks work exactly the same as my Bone CB blocks, or the blocks in Tempest Machines, in that this item is actually a barrier with some custom data to make it look like a custom block, and so that we can execute certain commands when we place this block. And when we place down the block, you'll see we get what looks to be an empty spawner. Now, I tried really hard to figure out what was going on here because I was super duper confused seeing this. And so I thought, okay, let's get the data of that block and see if command blocks or data packs just can't place custom spawners. And by looking at this data, we see that it has all of the necessary data that we want it to have. It has everything it needs. So what's going on? Well, when we reload the world, you will see that suddenly you can see all of the custom blocks. So for some reason, when a custom spawner is placed with a command block or with functions, the game does not update the visuals of that spawner until the world is reloaded. Why this is, I have no idea, but it is a problem. And I also don't think there's a way around it. I've tried several methods and I just cannot get this working, so I'm just gonna have to figure something else out. Now, normally this issue would be fixed with a mod called Enhanced Block Entities, but the problem is I want this data pack to require no mods. That's kind of the point of it being a data pack. So relying on the mod for the rendering of my data pack is is not possible. That's just not a thing I can do. But maybe I can do something with vanilla shaders, but then that gets messed up with iris shaders. So I'm really not sure what to do here. Okay, so I have an alternate solution. These are our spawner blocks, and over here is something else. Now, I'm not gonna hide too much what this is. These are waterlogged double slabs, kind of like I showed off in my how to add custom blocks without entities video a couple years ago. So even though these blocks are technically cobblestone slabs, when you place down cobblestone slabs, nothing is different because this is an unused block state, and when you mine the block, you get the custom block back. Now you might be thinking, Bex, wasn't there an issue with this method where if you broke the blocks in creative mode, there would be water left over? And to that I would say, yes. To which you might respond, okay, so isn't that still a problem? To which I would respond finally, oh, you would think that, bozo, look, it's not an issue. I did it, and it's still technically entityless. So then how do I do it? Well, that's easy. I'm raycasting every tick, and so whenever the player is looking at one of these blocks, a single marker is created, and then that marker checks for if that block becomes water all of a sudden, and then it sets the block to air to get rid of the water. And you might be thinking, oh, well then that'll cause lag because every block you look at will have a marker inside of it. Wrong. It gets killed when you're not looking at the block. I am smart like that. And the result of that is a lagless custom block with full integration. And because we're using the slab method, we can change what tool our block can be mined with. For instance, if we want to make a wooden block. Custom block methods are really, really tough. Oh yeah, so like the code for vertical slabs is so outdated now that it's just not worth updating anymore. Like the amount of effort it would take to update it is more than it would take to just write an entirely new version of the Datapack. So that's what I think I'm gonna do. But yeah, I busted open the vertical slabs Datapack and looked at it and tried to update the loot tables, and yeah, it just is not worth doing. And so I am going to completely overhaul vertical slabs. Alright, let's do this. Well, guess who spent today rewriting vertical slabs from the ground up? But as you can see, when we go up to this crafting table, we can craft our various slabs. So we'll just go ahead and do that. And without even doing anything, you are able to place them as vertical slabs immediately. Now you might be thinking, Bex, what if I want to bridge using vertical slabs? Well, that's easy. You just shift. If you hold down shift, then slabs will place as they do in vanilla Minecraft. And this is my absolute best version of this data pack in terms of code. Now, the sides of the slab don't match up with the blocks like they do in the original Bex's vertical slabs, but for the sake of simplifying the code as much as I did and making it this much more efficient, I think it's worth it. So with that, vertical slabs has been added. Ah, that's better. So how do we add custom items to the creative inventory? Now, the first method of doing this was created by Dragon14, Zoe, and she replaced infested stone variants with custom blocks. However, in order to effectively do this in my data pack, I would have to remove silverfish entirely from the game, which is just not something I'm comfortable doing. So the other option is a slightly more modern option, command blocks. Now, command blocks can't be placed as blocks in survival, but they can be used as custom items. However, in order to use them, you need to overwrite the command block in the creative inventory. And once again, that's not something I want to do. So the next option is one that I did for chopping block, spawn eggs, where you retexture spawn eggs and change the translate string. This allows them to exist in the creative inventory, and the custom items can be defined in crafting recipes since no vanilla recipes use spawn eggs. And it has more unique IDs for items than command blocks. However, they have the same drawback as command blocks, which is that you have to overwrite them in the creative inventory. And once again, we're not doing that. So now that leaves us with the option that the folks over at Tempest Box Redux have created, which is enchanted books. Now, this is an okay solution. It certainly works. What you do is you create custom enchantments that don't do anything and can't be put on any item. Give it a translate string with a custom font that covers up the vanilla text, and use a resource pack to make enchanted books with a specific stored enchantment have a custom model, and you have custom items in the creative menu. However, this has, once again, a few downsides. One is that these custom items cannot stack immediately out of the inventory. You can only pick them up one at a time. And the custom items have an enchanting glint even if the item isn't supposed to. But luckily, there is one more item similar to enchanted books that is stackable and that doesn't have the enchantment glint. Do you know what it is? Do you know how I'm adding custom items to Minecraft? It's paintings. They're custom paintings. Now, the blocks and items themselves are not paintings. The paintings are just a surrogate for being in the creative menu. Once they are put in your inventory, they are switched out for the proper item. But wait, there's an issue. There's something that you can do with command blocks and spawn eggs that you can't do with paintings. And that is define them in crafting recipes. If I want to add, say, a new metal to Minecraft, I would have to basically retexture a pre-existing item, say an iron ingot. But then any crafting recipe that uses iron ingots could also use my custom item. So I have to make sure to pick a base item that won't be disrupted by any potential crafting changes. But then there's also an issue that if we define a crafting recipe using our custom item, then the vanilla item can be used in place of it. So we have to come up with a solution. And luckily, I already have. And I've already talked about it back there. It's a combination of two solutions. So technically, I'm not overwriting the command block in the creative inventory. It's still there in the operator utilities tab. However, I have used the painting method to add another command block that gets changed to a regular command block when you grab it from your inventory. This allows us to use command blocks and structure blocks as custom items that can be defined in crafting recipes. The future is now, old man. So as you can see, all of the command and structure blocks have been duplicated in the creative menu, and they can be grabbed and used as normal. This gives us 5 custom items to work with, and even a 6th unstackable custom item if we really wanted to add it. And so with 5 custom items able to be added, which should be pretty flexible, I feel better about adding custom items that will be used in crafting recipes, which means that those items need to be important. And usually, important items have a very narrow source that they can be obtained from. Since we have 5 custom items that we can add and use in custom recipes, I'm thinking about items that can be added to the Sand Sifter's loot table. Some kind of resource that could only be gotten by sifting sand. What could it be? However, to figure out what such an important material should be, we need to figure out what content that material is going to help flesh out in the first place. But with so many possibilities for custom items now, I have something I want to add. Alright, so here's some exciting new content. I'm in the end, and I am mining chorus. Now, instead of breaking it at the very bottom like this, I'm going to start breaking it from as high as I can in order to get as many drops as possible. Because when you break chorus plant stalks, you will get chorus branches. Now, chorus branches only drop in the end. If you mine a chorus plant in the overworld, it will never drop a chorus branch. And what you can do with chorus branches is you can craft them into chorus planks, which are a snazzy new purple building block. Okay, so here in the overworld, we can get a better look at these blocks. Now, I think these look pretty good, but I have also added another block that I think works very well alongside it, and that is stripped chorus planks. Now, I have no idea how the player's gonna be able to obtain these because I can't detect the player right-clicking with an axe on wooden slabs, but I do want to figure out how to integrate this block because it looks very nice. And look, even though the chorus branch is a structure block, you can still pick up and obtain a structure block from the creative menu. I am incredibly excited about this. And for the impending comment about how the chorus branch doesn't look great, I know. I'm gonna make a better texture, this is just a placeholder. But since custom items are in limited supply, we need to give this guy, the chorus branch, multiple uses, or it needs to get out of the game. But I think that's a problem for the next video. I know this was a shorter devlog, I know, but hopefully the slightly higher quality made up for it because I put a lot of effort into this one. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new and want to see more content like this. My name is Bex, thanks for watching, and as always, thanks for watching. Alright.